Hey, and welcome back, my titanium-knuckled daywalkers, my rain-soaked tacticians of the backlot. Hobo Yeti here, still breathing, still blinking, still legally questionable in at least 2 jurisdictions. And if you're over 60 and still surviving outside, then you already know time isn't exactly your wingman anymore. Here's the thing. There is no elder care plan for the unhoused, no gentle slope into sunset years. It's just more gravity, less cartilage, and a society that treats you like expired meat in a dented can. Most don't make it. That's not drama, that's data. Exposure steals lives slowly. Hypothermia, heat stroke, infections, exhaustion. You know, the kind of endings that don't even earn a headline. If the weather doesn't get you, the wear down does. Your lungs shrink, your strength evaporates, your sleep goes to hell. So, if you're still kicking, still coughing up your morning phlegm and pulling on socks with 2 fingers and a prayer, then the name of the game is get somewhere better, fast. Doesn't have to be perfect, doesn't even have to be dignified, just less deadly. Some of these endings cost money, some cost stubbornness. A few just need the right moment of luck. But all of them, are better than waiting to be found under a tarp by a dog walker. Let's begin. 1. The van plan. Ah yes, the rolling sanctuary, the noble tin can. You find an old minivan that smells like old fries and lost dreams, and you rip the seats out with righteous fury. It leaks, it groans, but it's yours. You're finally off the ground. That alone buys you back a decade of mobility. No more spiders nesting in your boot. No more frostbite at 4 a.m. when the tent zipper rebels. It's not freedom, but it moves, and that makes it feel like freedom's grumpy cousin. Gas is a beast. Parking lots are a minefield, but you've got shelter on wheels, a place to rest without your head in a puddle and your gear under siege. You're not winning, but you're surviving smarter, and at our age, that's the actual game. 2. Getting some land. Not beachfront, not fenced. Junk land. 1 to 2 acres of forgotten earth in a county where time stopped moving in 1983. You buy it off a site like smile4uinc.com, where they even list water access and septic rules, which, is more than most towns offer their residents. It's not glamorous, it's weeds, rocks, maybe a rusted fence post from a prior life. But you set up a platform, park an old Craigslist trailer, maybe $1,000 beast held together with faith and wire, and you breathe. You exist, you haul water, you crap in a bucket. But the land doesn't move you along, it doesn't judge your tarp or your age or the way your knees pop like popcorn every time you stand up. It's peace, earned 1 splinter at a time. 3. Partner up. You meet someone, maybe at a food line, maybe behind a store, maybe during a rainstorm that forces 2 strangers under the same awning. You talk. You don't hate each other. Boom. Partnership. You combine your resources. Your $400 and their $600 becomes a van. Your gear and their common sense becomes a survivable camp. Maybe it's a trailer, maybe an apartment share, maybe just someone to watch your stuff while you use the bathroom like a human being. It's not a romantic comedy. It's strategic entanglement. You cover each other's backs and bills. You get farther together than you ever did alone. And, sometimes just not being alone in this hellscape is enough to keep you from spiraling. 4th. Tiny house or temp community. Some places like Hope Village or Eden Gardens or whatever feel-good name they slap on a shipping container village do exist. Barely. They're rare and they don't last long, but they're real. You get a room, a shed, a little box with power and a heater. You have rules, sure. No visitors, no drinking, no looking at the staff funny. But also a locking door and a real bed. You're off the streets for winter. You can dry your socks. You can think clearly for the first time in months. You don't stay forever, but you might just launch from there into something better. Because when the storm passes and you're not frozen solid, you get the rarest of all survival perks, a second wind. 5. Do your time. Get on Section 8. Income-based rent is the unicorn we're all chasing. You get a place, a kitchen, a thermostat. You pay what you can afford based on your income, not some fantasy about 40-hour weeks and white picket fences. But the wait, oh boy, you go to DHS. You ask, They say, come back in 6 months, or we lost your paperwork, or didn't we see you here in 2019? Still, you file, you persist, you stay alive long enough to see your number come up. And when it does, you get keys, not metaphorical ones, real keys with a lease and a mailbox and neighbors who also complain about the plumbing. You're still poor, but you're not outdoors. You're poor with a roof and a fridge, and that is a very specific kind of upgrade. 6. Go further out. Build a cabin. You vanish into the tree line. You don't run from society. You just decline the invitation. You find land, maybe leased, maybe borrowed, maybe just undiscovered, and you start stacking logs. It's slow. Your hands ache. Your back quits halfway through the first beam, but you build anyway. And what comes out of it is crooked and weird and perfect. You plant food. You chop wood. You patch leaks. You learn the difference between solitude and loneliness. Winter is brutal. Supplies must be stocked. You'll probably have to work in town for a few months to afford rice, propane, and dental floss. But come spring, you're still standing. And that cabin, is a monument to your refusal to vanish. 7. Hope someone helps in the right way. Usually help looks like pity with paperwork, but sometimes, rarely, help lands the right way. A stranger gives you a trailer, a friend pays a phone bill, a church says, stay as long as you need, and means it. No sermon, no strings. You don't have to perform, don't have to explain, don't have to prove you're deserving. And with that help, maybe you stop spinning. Maybe you make a plan. Maybe you build something for the first time in what feels like centuries. You don't need a rescue fantasy. You just need space to recalibrate your grip on the ledge. And sometimes someone hands you that ledge without asking you to grovel for it. 8. Urban stationary life with stability. You stop wandering. You find a spot behind a store, under a tree, next to a shed, and you make it yours. Not legally, not safely, but functionally. You've got a system, a routine. You know where the clean bathroom is, which clerk lets you sit inside when it's 102 degrees. You've got caches, friends, a citywide mental map of shade, plugs, kindness, and exit routes. You're not escaping anymore. You're managing, living in the margins with precision. You're poor, but not panicked, unhoused, but not unanchored. People start to recognize you. You start to recognize yourself again. And that, might be the most subversive ending of all. 9. Buy a boat and live afloat. Yes, a boat, I know. Feels like the setup to a joke, but I've met folks, real ones, who live on derelict sailboats, old cabin cruisers, and weird aluminum fish haulers they bought for the price of a bad used car. You find a marina, a slip, or even just anchor off some inlet like a rogue wave monk. Maintenance is a beast, and you better like the smell of mildew and wet socks because that's the new wallpaper. But the water, it's peace. No foot traffic, no late night cops, no neighbor's chihuahua having a mental breakdown. You've got the breeze, you've got the stars, you've got something resembling stillness, even if the tide disagrees. People say boats are holes you throw money into. But if the hole floats and keeps you dry, then hell, throw wisely. You're not adrift, you're anchored differently. 10. A place of your own, against all odds. It sounds fake until it isn't. A relative dies, a fundraiser works, a town program comes through. You land in a house that doesn't hate you. It creaks, the faucet leaks, the windows are vintage 1970s regret, but the lock works, the mail arrives, and no one's looking through your stuff while you sleep. You cook, you rest, you decorate with thrift store paintings and broken lamps. You open the window and just listen. You still feel like a ghost sometimes. Like maybe you imagined all the years outside, but then you feel the bed under your back, and you know you made it. You're not a miracle. You're just persistent, and that's enough. So those are 10 alternate endings, not fairy tales, not rehab montages set to uplifting indie folk, just rough, strange, glorious detours from the usual story that ends in a cold body and a chalk outline of public failure. If you're over 60 and still here, still hauling gear, still boiling coffee in a tin cup, still breathing air you weren't sure you'd still need, then you've got options. Not easy ones, not fast, but real. You know, sometimes the win is just staying upright long enough to find the next move. These are some of those moves. I hope your road is a good one. And if you're homeless, I hope it doesn't suck for you. Peace.